1, a 2, a 1.
It's time for the Better Horses radio show. So let's saddle up and ride as we explore the Western way of life, horses and cows, family and friends, a relationship with the land, and a relationship with God. It's all here on Better Horses Radio. Now let's hit the trails with the Better Horses team.
And welcome to Better Horses Radio. We're so glad you joined us. I'm your host, Ed Adams, and we're going to have Merle Arbo, our co-host, joining us within the show, and very excited about this program that we're delivering to you today. And coming into the show, as we talk about the talent pool that we have lined up, there's a gentleman by the name of Mark Mayfield. Now, he's the owner of Mayfield Presentations. Now, what's interesting about Mark is he's also a Kansas State University graduate with a bachelor's and master's degree in agriculture education, but he's going to be sitting down and talking to us about his specialty topic of stress management and mental health and managing that stress. Looking forward to have him come on board as he relates it to the horse industry. And moving down to the state of Mississippi, we have Michael Gascon from the Horse Guro from Poplarville, and that's Horse Haven Ranch and the Gascon Horsemanship, which you may have heard of. This is a very talented trainer that I'm looking forward to having him on board with Better Horses again. And all the way down to Carson James, a gentleman that's a true talent in our industry. And with that in mind, Carson James has a background in horsemanship, and that's been the better part of his career. And he's going to share with us his real life experiences and really how to fix those problem areas with horses. He's a buckaroo horseman, and I am looking forward to having him come on board. But for all you cattle fans out there, we didn't forget about you. We're going to move over to our Better Cattle segment here on Better Horses with our very own Mark Alpold. Mark?
Well, Ed, when you're talking about better cattle, got to talk about better cattle men and cattle women. They're all gathering and have been gathering in San Antonio, their annual convention. Spending some time on that here today and this week in our edition of Better Cattle. The cattle feeder and cash market futures reaching new highs as these convention members meet in San Antonio. The NCBA convention comes as cattle numbers, though, continue below levels of a year ago. Packer interest really not showing any signs of slowing down. USDA's recent cattle inventory report proving that it showed 86.7 million head of cattle. That was down 1% from a year ago, and even then, historically low numbers. Beef cows in the report declined another 1%. Interesting, though, milk cows and their numbers increased by nearly 1%. Cattlemen at the convention, and we talked about this many times, Ed, they're watching feeder cattle prices at auctions reaching near record levels, get higher and higher, but feed costs rising as well. And just when March feeder cattle futures seem like they can retreat back below the 268 level. Buyers step up, and we can see that 280 back in sight. April live cattle, kind of in uncharted territory when you really think about it, where they've come from. 195, 196, though, looks to be pretty good support. Might go below that, but again, that 95, 96 looks to be very, very good support. Now, as the convention continues, one of the highlights each year is the addition to the Cattlemen's Hall of Fame. It's a highlight each year. The induction to the Hall of Fame happened at their annual banquet here at midweek. It's a fairly new addition, though, to the convention. It was established just in 2009. Inductees this year include Joe Morgan, Pokey Feeders in Scott City, Kansas, and Dan May with 4M Feeders in Stratton, Colorado. Talk a little bit about Joe Morgan. He helped the feed yard to grow when he started there in 1985. They had about 17,000 head capacity, and right now it's over 103,000 head, 95% of which are custom cattle. So people have to come back year after year to put their cattle in the feedlot there at Pokey Feeders in Scott City, and that's a testament to Joe Morgan and his years there. Dan May, born and raised in Colorado and really never left. He and his brothers now operate numerous feedlots, farms, and ranches in Colorado, in Nebraska, and Nevada. He's a commodity broker, has been for many, many years. He markets over 400,000 head of cattle each year. So our congratulations to Joe Morgan, Pokey Feeders in Scott City, Kansas, and Dan May, 4M Feeders in Stratton, Colorado. Lots of better cattle. We talk about the NCBA convention. Ed, that's going to do it for us. We hope everybody has a profitable week ahead.
And thank you, Mark. I appreciate the cattle tip. Coming up, we have Mark Mayfield, Mayfield Presentations. I want everybody to stay with us as we have more better horses coming your way right after these messages.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Hey, it's Alex Gold from Max Motors in Belton with their huge year-end heavy-duty sale. Every new 2024 Ram 2500 in stock is 20% off MSRP. New 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee up to $13,000 off MSRP. Stock number S240367. Must finance with dealer lender. Offer expires 1/2/25. And if you're looking for the max trade-in values in the Midwest, it's Max Motors, just a short drive to Belton. Max Motors, the easiest place to buy a car, maxmotors.com.
And you are dialed in and listening to Better Horses Radio. I'm your host, Ed Adams, and we appreciate your joining us. You know, throughout the years here at Better Horses, we have prided ourselves on bringing probably the best talented horse trainers and cattlemen on our show, and I think that has just been absolutely fantastic. But today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about self-help. And with me today, I'm very pleased because I've seen this guy in action. His name is Mark Mayfield. He's the owner of Mayfield Presentations. And what I really appreciate what he does is that he really gives a unique background in basically school teaching. He has corporate lobbyists. He's been a performer. He's owned several businesses. He has a very diverse background in speaking, and he's operated several businesses ranging from livestock productions to nightclubs and to golf instructions. I mean, he's been fantastic. But he's a professional speaker, he's an MC, he's a comedian for conventions, but he specializes in entertainment and stress management. And I thought I'd bring him on board because not only is he from the Midwest and he's from our farming community, but he's also a part of our sponsor who is sponsoring this segment from Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine. He's also with Kansas State University. He's a graduate. He's got his bachelor and master's in agricultural education. Welcome aboard, Mark Mayfield. Mark, welcome to Better Horses Radio.
Thanks, Ed. Wow. Did my mother write that intro? Because I think the phrase is gilding the lily. I'm humbled right now, but you hit on the things that are important to me, the rural background and where I was raised on a farm, southeast Kansas, hog and cattle operation with horses. And in fact, at one time I wanted to be a jockey. That was my entire ambition in life. I was in high school, 4'11" and 96 pounds, and then my body discovered hormones, and nobody's going to win the Kentucky Derby if they're 6'1", 190. So unless we race Clydesdales, that'd be a possibility. So I appreciate you mentioning that. And K-State is, I bleed purple. I was on the alumni board at one time and follow them closely. So thanks for all those all those good things, the high points of my life there.
You know, Mark, we spend a lot of our time on the radio show when we talk a lot about managing the stress and trying to get the anxiety out that we have when we're managing horses. But managing stress and mental health is just more than beyond just writing and teaching horses. And you've also an author of many books and talking about this, but you've come to a different twist in how to manage stress management. And for one thing, you're doing one thing that's very special. You're recognizing it. And I think that's half the battle.
Without a doubt, that's step number one. You know, if this was a 12-step program, which it kind of is, that's the first thing we have to do. And if you'd have told me, Ed, 20 years ago, I'd have been talking about this, I'd have said, you're absolutely crazy, because that was just not the culture. There's nothing bad about that time. But, you know, I was raised on a farm. I was 16 before I realized my name was not, you know, suck it up, son. And it was just the culture. It was the industry. It was what we did. We didn't talk about it. We're tough. We're strong. We're independent. We soldier on. And as time has progressed, we've started to accept that. And without a doubt, it's something that's been overlooked, not just in the general economy and in this country, but particularly in agriculture, because of that nature of the business. And it's compounded because of a lot of other things. In rural America, we have more isolation. Loneliness is one of the biggest contributors to depression and to poor mental health. The availability is not always there. The accessibility is not always there. The affordability is not always there. There's a group of A's that make it more difficult for agriculture to address the mental health thing. And you can find whatever numbers you want. And I don't care whether we're first or second or third, or if, you know, veterinary medicine is high or second, or construction. I don't care what the industry is. If it's one person suffering, it's one too many in my mind.
You know, you're exactly right. Veterinarians are right up there in the top echelon of mental health and suicides. So we want to give credit to that. And that's a very hard job. And we want to let everybody know we appreciate the veterinarian industry and what they do. When you're going into the rural areas, there is a lot of stress management that's going on, and something that you graduated the Kansas State University in 1983. We were raised a little differently back then. If you're crying, we'll give you something to cry about. All those things that we did. I mean, capital punishment was the educational process when we were going to school back then. But has the rural area changed a lot when we're raising? I mean, why do we seem to have more mental stress now, or did we just now uncovering what was always there?
Well, that's a very introspective question. I'm glad you asked it, so I didn't have to kind of wedge it in. That's the thing. When I was growing up, I didn't realize, you know, in the 60s and 70s, I didn't think about all the angst and the anger and the sadness and the depression. And, you know, even though I know it was there because I lost family members due to depression, but we never thought about it that much. And we could spend hours talking about why now. And there's a whole lot of reasons, but one I'll just toss out that I'll have everybody kind of chew on for a while is it's unfettered access to information. Now, first of all, don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking information. That's how we solve problems. We have to know more tomorrow than we do today, without a doubt. But there's so much information out there, we sometimes can't put it in perspective. For example, when my grandpa was farming next to us and he was working the fields in the 40s or the 50s, do you suppose he was worried about a Chinese spy balloon flying over the country, or a bank collapsing in California that would trickle down and affect his investment? No, he didn't know about that. His world was a very tight circle. And now we have access to everything. So it's very easy to put things out of perspective because of this. And if there is a takeaway from this whole interview, I hope it's this one. People forget that the news is not what is happening. It is what is not happening. It's the unusual, the oddity, it's the tragedy, it's the travesty, it's the depressing news, it's awful. You know, what's that old line? If it bleeds, it leads. So what happens is we see all the negative that is out there by virtue of information in a host of ways, social media, mainstream media, etc. And we fail to put that in perspective. That affects everybody, but more so it affects the younger who hasn't had the life experiences to put it in perspective. I'm old enough now that when I see something that's awful, I know, okay, that's not really what's going on all the time. The news and the media is not going to report the person in front of you driving through the McDonald's that decides to pay for your meal. that doesn't make the news. But if there's a tragedy or a travesty or an economic downturn or something like that, that will be in the news. And so it's difficult to put stuff in perspective. And that's one reason now we see so much more mental health issues and so forth, is because we have that unfettered access to all the bad stuff.
No, I think that's great. You're putting a different perspective on everything. And one of the things that we've noticed more than anything else is that agritourism is climbing. And Mark you brought up a really good point. We're all in difficult times, and talking about the LA fires, and we're all right there in the front row watching this going on. Is it imperative to know that most people in the urban area are trying to get out in the rural area to try to get rid of their frustrations and their anxieties? We're seeing it here at boarding barns. Obviously, horses are very therapeutic, and depressions are at an all-time high. Do you think, and we're seeing it more and more, that everybody's kind of scrambling to the agricultural side of the fence just to get that relief? Does that make sense, or do you see that in your perspective?
Well, that clearly is one of the examples of how you have to sometimes move away or pull the stress away from you. And any behavioral technique to do that, whether it's relaxation or whether it's hobbies or whether it's just talking to people through therapy or just through good friends, or skipping away and watching your favorite sitcom, those are all escapes. And escapes a lot of times pulls the stress away from you for a moment. Now, let me explain something. That doesn't mean the stress goes away. And that's, some people get construed, hey, laugh your problems away. That doesn't happen. But here's what happens. When you have that escape, whether it's urban coming to rural, or whether it's I'm going to just step away from this problem right now, or I'm going to get away from this argument, or I need a break. When you step away, what it does, it allows your mind to clear a bit. It doesn't make the problem go away, but it puts your mind in a better state so that you can more likely solve the problem. You can come up with better alternatives. You put it in perspective. You find options. You see a better way to approach this. That's what it does. It doesn't make the problem go away. And I have to be very clear when I say that, because some people think, if you just take a 2-day vacation, the problem goes away. No. But it can clear your mind so that your mind is more capable of finding a solution to that. There's really two kinds of stress. One of them is that you can't change. You can't change or do anything about it. It's that old serenity prayer, accept the things I cannot change. The second kind is the courage to change the things I can. That takes problem-solving skills. And that is what can happen if you're managing that stress, putting yourself, resetting your brain to come up with a solution to manage what you can. And of course, the final part of that is the wisdom to know the difference.
That's exactly right. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Mark Mayfield. He's the owner of Mayfield Presentations, and we're talking about mental stress and things that can happen, and basically how to really discuss difficult times and how to get through it. So, Mark, you kind of mentioned this. Coping mechanisms are very key in dealing with it. You don't necessarily get rid of it. You're really just figuring out a way to cope with it.
Without a doubt. And that's the thing you have to teach. Now, some people will say, well, it's fight or flight. Well, I'll agree with you. There is some stress that you run away from. We don't need that in our life. We don't need that issue. It doesn't apply to us. It doesn't affect our livelihood or our family. Okay, so run from that. But most of the stress that we have to figure out a way to cope with it, to manage it. And there are 1,000, philosophies. I kind of teach the 5 that we forget. I even though I'm a man of faith, I don't stand up there and preach and say, that you have to do that, because that's a personal choice. But here's the real reason I don't do that. We don't forget that. And by the way, everybody's religious. When I approach this subject, I talk about that. Some people will tell me I'm not religious. Oh, yeah, you are. You're religious about where you live or what you eat or the kinds of people that you hang out with. Everybody's religious about something. And so I don't have to remind you of that. You know that's a stress management technique. People came back to their faith in millions after 9/11 and through the COVID foundation. I'm not going to talk about food, nutrition, because we know that. But the 5 that we forget, the 5 stress management techniques that we forget are, in fact, it's an easy way to remember. It's a little acronym, the word REACH, relaxation. We sometimes won't take a break and we wear ourselves out, both mentally and physically. Exercise. I'm not saying you got to be a marathon runner, but you need to do something that's regular and elevates the heart rate. The A in REACH is avocation. Get a hobby. If you don't have one, get it. C is communication, maybe the most important of those 5. And the last one is H, Don't forget that sense of humor. It's a great way to create distance from a problem. Those are the things that you have to do to keep your mind reset so that you're better able to handle these stressful times that we are in the middle of and will be forever.
Man, that's well said. And we're talking about managing stress and mental health with Mark Mayfield. Now, he teaches methods to manage mental health and resets the baseline of happiness and success. You can catch him on his website at markmayfield.com. Mark, if people wanted to get in touch with you, I want to let everybody know you're also a speaker and you travel all around the United States. And if people wanted to get a hold of you, that's the best location?
Yeah, that's it. Just go to my website. All my contact information is there. It's markmayfield.com. Just my name, markmayfield.com. You can email, you can submit a submission, or you can even call. And that's the best way to get a hold of me. And you know that I'm glad you brought that up, because one reason that we haven't talked about this subject is because it can be drab and depressing. And I'll be honest with you, I've sat through sessions with people talking about mental health, and it was so much of a downer that I walked out and actually depressed myself. So the approach that I started taking years ago when I decided to finally talk about this subject is, because I have a comedy background, this is a comedic review of that. Now, that sounds incongruous, but you have to hear me out on this. There's a lot of aspects of stress management that involve fun and humor. And as incongruous as it sounds, you can do a program on the importance, the value, and the benefits and the how-to of mental health and make it fun and entertaining. And that's, I guess, if I have a hook, that's my hook.
Well, I appreciate you joining Better Horses. And we're talking to Mark Mayfield. You know, he's a real life guy that really has a hands-on practical wisdom that he basically lays out for everybody. He's a professional speaker. He's an MC. He's a comedian, and he flies all across the country. And more importantly, he's a graduate of the Kansas State University, and he bleeds purple. And that's important. Mark, we want to thank you again for joining Better Horses Radio.
Thanks so much, Ed. This has been awesome. Thank you.
So let's get into it. And Merle, our segment is brought to you by Kleinsmith's Western Wear, located in Higginsville, Missouri. I'm telling you, 30,000 square feet of the best Western gear anybody could ever get a hold of.
It is unofficially America's largest Western store.
Check it out, Kleinsmith's Western Wear. You can check out their website at kleinboot.com. That's KLEIN boot.com. You know, as we said, this is going to be one of our best programs as we bring you one of the top trainers and clinicians around the country. We're going to head down to Mississippi, more specifically Poplarville, Mississippi, and we're going to introduce a young man who's in probably one of the most award-winning horse estates in the world, and this is Horse Haven Ranch, and this is where you can find the Gascon Horsemanship family. Now, before I introduce this guy, the Gascon Horsemanship journey goes back 5 generations and includes many world championships and a variety of disciplines. He loves Pasafinos, so I can't wait to get him on board. Everybody, welcome Michael Gascon. Michael, thank you for joining Better Horses.
Hey, bud. Thank you so much for having us on. We're so happy to be here.
Now, I know you're in the middle of a clinic, and I know you're going through lots of training, but one of the tips that I really thought was impressive when we were talking about lessons is that you said one of the biggest horse lessons you've ever learned was you don't have to wear out the horse to get him to do what you want. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely, bud. So I was lucky enough to be raised by a Hall of Fame Pasafino trainer and my father, and I was raised on the show circuit with Pasafinos. Well, when it was my turn to take over the family ranch, and I decided that I wanted to be a clinician and go around helping people become safer and create a better bond with their horse, I started studying all the greats of natural horsemanship. And when I would read those books and watch those videos and try that with my horses, quite frankly, I felt like a blubbering idiot. I was doing everything that I saw, and it just wasn't working for me. And I felt like, man, all my life, what have I actually learned? And it was because so much of what I was learning, the punchline of horsemanship was, if they don't like what you're doing, wear them out and they will. If they don't want to do something, wear them out and they'll want to do it. Well, when you try that with a hot horse, that's the equivalent of trying to get a marathon runner to run a lap. They just laugh at you as they run circles around you. So I had to start creating a different path and start working these horses from cold and not use their shape or laziness as a weapon because they're not lazy and they're happy to work. And that's where we really started learning how to control the head, control the horse, and work from colds. And when I got on the clinic tour and started working all the different breeds, I realized, wait a second, it not only works on really hot horses, but it does amazing on cold, dull horses. Imagine if you have a lazy horse that doesn't want to work, instead of wearing them out and then trying to get them to work, imagine if you worked them while they were as fresh as they can be. And that's just what we do here.
You know, I absolutely love this point. So let's kind of get into specifics here. I have a hot horse. It's a thoroughbred, and trying to get it to its thinking side of the brain, which we always talk about. What are some of the techniques you use?
Well, we do what we call the Respect series. We start in kindergarten. As a matter of fact, we're doing a retreat right now, and we have a few thoroughbreds here being worked. The very first thing we do in kindergarten is simply ask the horse to back up. And you would be amazed how many horses have a college education, but they've never been through elementary school, meaning they are an off-the-track horse, or they are a dressage horse, or they're a reiner, or they're a roper. They have this really high-level education, but we use the word quirky, or like you said, they don't want to get to the thinking side of their brain. And the reason being is when we start, no matter what you bring to us, we start in kindergarten, they will fail. I mean, just absolutely, like you ask a little kid to answer to a question, they have no idea what the answer is. They will completely and utterly fail. So what we do is we start in the very beginning, which is backing them up out of our space to gain their respect. And then one of the bigger changes is our lunging system. We're lunging a 2-foot circle around these horses. And you say a 2-foot circle, that doesn't make any sense. Your thoroughbred cannot run, will not run in a 2-foot circle. And if they don't respect you enough to get in that small circle without running into you, well, you probably shouldn't ride them. And if a 2-foot circle makes them drag you, again, we probably shouldn't be on their back. So it becomes very revealing to you very quickly how much they respect you, how much they're paying attention to you. And a lot less of it has to do about how trained they are and more about, most people get hurt on a trained horse that knows how to ride. But if they're getting hurt on trained horses, it's because the horse isn't respecting them or paying attention. And we do a very good job, if I must say, of figuring that out and then working on it if it needs help.
You know, Michael, a little known fact about me is the very first judge's card I ever got was a Missouri foxtrotting judge's card. That's a true story. And
very cool.
I think what's interesting for me is you don't give gaited horses a pass. I think, and I don't know if you know, but I'm a quarter horse judge now also, but I think in the gaited circles, there's a lot of people that give the gaited horses a pass and say, well, my horse won't do this because he's a Pasofino, or my horse won't do this because it's a walking horse, like backing, for example. And I think that's interesting. And also one of my favorite things is where you all are sitting around and you're throwing this big ball around on these Pasofinos that should just leave the arena, but you do that at home. Can you tell us more about how you do that and why you do that?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I'm a professional colt starter, and meaning I'm a professional elementary school teacher. And in the beginning, I wanted to practice my colt starting as much as I could. So when I started going to clinics, I started just using my participants and say, hey, can I borrow your horse and go? And what I didn't tell them, I was going through my colt starting program step by step. And I had this crazy epiphany. If I get a very advanced horse that's problematic, instead of trying to fix the lead or work on the advanced thing or the headset or the bridling, if I go back to the fundamentals and fill in the potholes, whatever it's missing, I can get the horse to do anything that I want. So regardless, I use the word colt starting because that's any colts, that's any young horses, and I treat them all like they know nothing. Once I get the basis of my colt starting program done, whether it's a Paso or a Percheron or a pony or a saddlebred it doesn't matter. If you can control the head, you can control the horse. If I have control of their face and their butt, I can rope off of anything. I can shoot off of anything. I can take anything up the mountainside. And the type of horse that's there, for a lot of folks, if they came to my retreat that's going on right now and they saw 20 different breeds of horses right now being worked, in this 1 week, they will all play a soccer game. They will all go to the obstacle course. They will all go on trails. They will all go and chase cows, and we'll do cattle sorting and ranch sorting, and we'll swing ropes off of them. We don't give them any passes for their excuse. We say, hey, you're a horse. We believe you can do this. And it's amazing. If you treat the horse like the horse they can become, they'll become that horse. If you treat that horse like the victim or the horse that it is, that, oh, it's too spooky, it's too hot, it's too gated, well, it'll forever live in that shadow.
You know, I love your point where you said any breed can do anything. When we talk about roping, I naturally look at the gold standard, which is quarter horses, but you'll take a thoroughbred and you'll rope off them with cattle. So you don't fall into that trap where these horses are bred for specific jobs.
Absolutely. Now, don't get me wrong. If you want your child to be in the NBA, it would help if you're 6.5, 7 foot tall and your wife is 6.5, 7 foot tall, the chances of them being a high level NBA player, but you can teach anybody basketball. So it's the same way. As a matter of fact, my personal horse is Paso Fino, and my goal when I started roping was to win a roping with a Paso Fino. And I won my first buckle about 1.5 years ago after picking up roping very late in life. And it was all funny in the warm-up pen with him gating around until we came out of that heel box like we were on fire, and you get a couple clean catches and stop the clock. And it's not so funny anymore. But somebody had to believe it possible first for that to happen.
You know, that's exactly right. I love the fact that you have multiple generations behind you. So you got to see a lot of styles. And more importantly, you got to see we progress our training from the 80s. I think your mom was the second youngest woman to win the Congress in the 80s. And your dad, as you mentioned, was a world-renowned Paso Fino trainer with multiple world championships. But that training has changed a lot in the last 30 to 50 years. What have you thought? What do you think?
I think the evolution of horsemanship has gone from a straight line. I did the Mongol Derby, which is the longest, toughest horse race in the world across Mongolia.
There you go.
And represented the United States there. And I fixed safari horses in Africa. And depending on who you ask, Asians or Africans, who were the first on horses, it was Asians or Africans. Their style of riding is fast and straight. And then when you go to Europe and work horses, they're very stuck on dressage. 400 or 500 years ago, dressage happens, and the form of the big circle shows up. Two people working the horse shows up, and that circle starts taking away some of the athleticism of the horse to allow for more riders on their back. 60 or 70 years ago here in America, natural horsemanship, the Ray Hunts, the Tom Dorrances, those guys, and round penning. Fun fact, if you leave Western civilization, you don't find round pens anywhere else. So the round pen is an even smaller circle. And now today in 2024, we feel like we're the tip of the spear, the most evolved riding out there. We are making circles so small that the horse's nose is pointed to their butt and we're in the middle of that lunge circle, that close to the horse. And what we find is we're making more forgiving horses more efficiently than ever before.
I did not know that about round pens. In the domestic United States, that's where it's found. There's nowhere else to be found anywhere else.
So I've worked horses in every continent that has horses, and in Canada, America, South America, in Australia, those places you find round pens. In Asia, I didn't see one round pen. I did a whole European tour and did all kind of colt starting over there. I didn't see one round pen. We were starting things in dressage arenas. For those of you listening, a dressage arena, you're starting a 17-hand warm blood, and the dressage fence is a foot tall. And I'm a country boy, but that math don't math. But we figured it out because we can control the head, we can control the horse. The round pen's not necessary.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Michael Gascon from Gascon Horsemanship from Mississippi. Michael, if people wanted to go to your clinics, because you're traveling all over the place, and as you just mentioned, you're traveling internationally, what's the best way to get a hold of you, and what's the best way to contact you?
The best way to get in touch with us is at horsehelp.com.
Michael, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on board. We're looking forward to more videos on the Better Horses TV show. I think it's great what you're doing. You're really grabbing a lot of masses right now, and I appreciate all the traveling you're doing, teaching us exactly what we need to know about horses.
Thank you so much for letting me on your platform and having me here. I really respect you guys, and it was awesome to talk to you today.
You're talking to Michael Gascon. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
We're going to be right back right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine at the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
From the farmer to the DIYer, the homeowner with a yard to mow to the landscaper with hundreds to mow, at Heritage Tractor, we are deeply committed to your unique needs. We're here for you, and we're here for the long haul. We're not just located here, but we're part of this place. Our John Deere equipment and highly trained staff empower you to turn dreams into reality. Whether it's tending to your fields, running a business, or enhancing your piece of paradise. In all the ways that matter, Heritage Tractor is here for you.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered Pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes the barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
Hey, it's Alex Gold from Max Motors in Belton with their huge year-end heavy-duty sale. Every new 2024 Ram 2500 in stock is 20% off MSRP. New 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee up to $13,000 off MSRP. Stock number S240367. Must finance with dealer lender. Offer expires 1/2/25. And if you're looking for the max trade-in values in the Midwest, it's Max Motors, just a short drive to Belton. Max Motors, the easiest place to buy a car, maxmotors.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses. And I can't tell you, Merle, I'm excited about this next guest. I've been following this guy for a long time. His background is a Vaquero Horsemanship, and he has the majority of his career is going to be in cattle ranching, and he's rode a lot of horses every day. I think he's on the horses more than he's actually sleeping in his house. So with that much information, he's got a lot of knowledge of real life experiences in the Buckaroo horsemanship. Carson James, thank you for joining us here at Better Horses.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
So Merle and I were talking. You have a great video that you bring out to all these people that want to learn about horsemanship. But as I was telling Merle, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I have never quite listened to a podcast like yours before that is so direct into giving you something into your toolkits of what you can do about horses. So with that in mind, what is some of the things that you like to see when we're talking about working with horses, and some of the things that you see as the biggest mistake with your clinics that people are making?
Oh, for sure. It seems like more often than not, probably one of the things is maybe just kind of as human nature, human tendency, whatever you might call it, we tend to have trouble seeing the little things that the horse is trying to get us to catch on to and be aware of, because we're just wanting the big things and the big picture so badly. And I think that can kind of blind us in a sense to, basically, it can hinder our ability to have empathy for the horse and feel what he's feeling and really allow us to get inside of his head to be able to understand what we need to do to help that specific horse. One thing we talk about at clinics a lot is we try to help people understand how much is going on even at a walk, and how there's probably 500 things that are missing in a horse, even at a walk or a standstill, that if you could get those smaller things working, how much that would help influence the whole horse and the big picture kind of thing, so.
Sure. And Carson, that's a good point. I think that a lot of people, they think the problem just happens at the trot or just happens at the lope or the canter. And it actually, the lack of body position, lack of control at the walk, it all happens slower, and you can process it easier for a rider. How do you tell your riders or your participants in your clinic, how do you get better at that? How do you improve with that?
I feel like, for me, I kind of feel like it's when you practice spending some time at those lower speeds and lower levels, you will begin to develop more awareness. It seems like it's pretty common. You'll kind of notice when somebody's just kind of walking around or not doing anything real big with any kind of speed with a horse, they're not really tuned in and trying to, feel that horse's thoughts and be with him every stride, as Tom Dorrance would say, and stuff like that. But once they start to add a little bit of speed or go out and lope or canter or something like that, well, then, only then does their focus really kick in, and they're trying to feel the horse and keep him balanced and help him. So to me, just spending some more time at, a walk, for example, and just trying to be more aware, you will start to feel like, okay, his right hind leg is kind of evading stepping underneath him. Let me put that back under there. His attention is kind of off to the left, where my intent is maybe straight ahead or off to the right. So then you start to play with his attention span a little bit and kind of teach him how to get to where you can direct where his attention goes. And I mean, that could even be done at a standstill. So just spending some time trying to be more aware at things that you previously wouldn't think there was much to be aware of. But if you're not looking for it, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you wouldn't see it in the first place kind of deal,
You brought up a good point on speed work. Merle and I were just talking about this. These riders that go into the speed work find out they have a whole different horse than what they were working with on the walk and trot. What are some of the techniques you like to use before we get into the full speed work?
So probably a really good one that I feel like has helped a lot of people is you can get a horse to where, how normally it's kind of a feeling like we're allowing them to go and causing them to slow down or stop or rate back or whatever. You can kind of reverse that to where they're always kind of looking to slow down and come down to a standstill, to where you have to actively ride them just a little bit to keep them going. And not that it should weigh a whole lot, that you can get them to where, with the rhythm of your body kind of actively riding forward, you're almost telling him, take another step, now another one, now another one, now another one. And then when you kind of quit riding and turn off, he'll get to where he interprets that as, oh, he's no longer asking me to move. And the result is they'll kind of just shut off. And if you can kind of make it where it's their idea to want to just come down, and that seems like a good deal for them, then they'll kind of be looking for that. So I would say above taking a hold of one or pulling them into the ground or anything like that, if you can get the desire in the horse to where he's wanting to hunt for that stop and kind of always looking to do that as a really good deal for him, if that's your foundation, that's going to help a ton. And then it's really counterintuitive, but I believe Ray Hunt talked about this to a degree. But when you think about a horse being what they are, meaning the ability to freely move their feet is what keeps their self-preservation satisfied. So if you can become the kind of person that can convince a horse that your purpose in life is to improve and enhance their movement and their ability to move, not to hinder their ability to move, it will really allow that self-preservation to kind of let down, and it makes it a lot easier for that horse to be able to kind of give himself to you, if that makes sense.
Sure. Now, and my background, Carson, is in Western pleasure horses. That's how I started as a kid, and I still enjoy that class. I know a lot of people don't anymore, but in my world, we call that rate or stay. Is that kind of what you're alluding to, like pushing the horse and rather than holding the horse back?
Yeah, just getting them to where you're kind of trying to have a conscious awareness of, okay, anytime I'm wanting this horse to move, I need to make sure that I have a active seat and my body has some activity and life in it. Because if that is not there, if you don't have a little bit of life through your whole body, your hips, your seat, your calves and your shoulders and your hands, well, you have nothing to go to when you want to turn yourself off to allow that horse to feel that you just shut down and basically quit asking him to keep moving forward or taking steps. So a lot of it too is just trying to help people get to where, hey, if you're wanting your horse to trot, make sure that you are actively riding him and not just kind of up there like a wet sack of potatoes, having him drag you around, So if that's not there as well, if you're always basically lifeless in your body and your rhythm, well, then you can't really turn yourself off and allow your horse to feel that, because you were never up and alive in the first place. So actively riding forward when you're wanting to go, you'll kind of notice anytime you watch somebody ride, if they're kind of dead in their life and their body and they're not really actively riding that horse, they always are wondering about, how do I get him better at rating or slowing down and making it his idea to do that, where he's not needing, 35 pounds of pull in a Rutledge Roper to think about slowing down a little bit.
Exactly.
There, but they,
Exactly. Yeah, it's the muscle memory you have going into it. Everyone, we're talking to Carson James Horsemanship. Carson, I know that you are traveling. You're heading over to California. People can get a hold of you at carsonjameshorsemanship.com. And we're so glad that Carson James could sit down with us and walk us through that program. And we look forward to him coming on board down the road. Well, everyone, that's it for this week. I want to thank you for watching Better Horses. And if you missed any of our episodes, or if you want to hear this radio show again, and if you're driving around and you're just riding horses, or invite you to listen into Better Horses radio podcast, now available on Apple, Spotify, Foxfire, Chrome, Echo. And you know what? You can even listen to this podcast on YouTube. So we appreciate all that. And for all our Better Horses, we've got newspaper fans out there. We have our winter edition that is coming out. And be sure to check out betterhorses.com and be a subscriber, as we all look forward to our TV show being hosted by RFD, the Cowboy Channel, and now streaming on Equus TV. As always, we want to thank our team behind the scenes, Brianna Johnson, and our own TV producer, Kelly Creech, and naturally, all our sponsors. But above all, we want to thank you, our listeners. And that wraps it up. And we want you all to be good buckaroos and buckarettes and mind your mom and dads and be brave, but don't take any chances out there. Until next time, I'm Ed Adams. Happy trails, and always ride for the brand.